Guys, hello, Tarrell again, and today we are finally talking about 5 things I learned when making my short film, Slush. But before I begin, of course, just gotta plug that Space Cocaine is in an online film festival that is ending shortly, so please get in your votes if you have not yet. But as I said today, talking about the 5 things, so let's jump right in. So if you've ever taken pretty much any type of English or writing class, eventually you'll get to a point where the teacher wants you to, map out a character down to the very smallest things like, oh, what's their favorite food, their favorite music. And I always wondered if this really helps build character, and so I kind of did a little test. In Space Cocaine, did, all the character work on the characters in the movie, and then in Slush, I did 0. And honestly, I feel like the results were pretty much the same, and maybe, in my opinion, I think that Slush actually had more character. Now, the movies are completely different, and Slush does have more character development parts in it, but I feel like you really don't need to map out your characters like super, vividly, unless you're not quite sure where you want to take them. But I feel like if you know for sure what their place is in the story and how exactly you want them to react to things, I really don't think it's necessary because while it could be important to write out what happened to your character when they're 2 years old, I don't think that's really going to impact what happens to them in the story. So I think you should just keep it into the realm of what exactly is happening in the story when it comes to developing character. This is something I've always done in my movies, but especially in this one, I realized that you need to get creative input from, everyone involved, whether it's like shots like this one right here where I just put the slushy cap on top of the lens. That was actually Luke's idea. I never would have thought of that. Or big story points. In the original version of Slush, Skylar's character Simon was actually a real person, and he was the one that gives the speech at the end of the movie. But after going back and forth with everyone, we decided that Simon should actually just be an imaginary character. And I think that actually works out a lot better in the story. And on top of that, that final speech he gives in the jail, that was completely Skylar's thing. Like, I gave him some points like, okay, just try and mention at some point this and this, but that entire thing was completely his. And it was pretty cool to just hand off the creativity to someone else to see what they can make. And I thought it came out pretty great. So, try and get ideas from everyone involved. Don't try and master it all with just, your brain. And I think you can come up with some pretty cool stuff. So get input from others. While I don't think I have fully hit my personal style, Slush is definitely super close and is the closest probably any movie I've made has come to being my own personal style. Before this it was Space Cocaine, but I didn't get as far with my style as I wanted to in Space Cocaine, and in Slush I feel like I really nailed that. And it's hard to say exactly how you can find your own style, but for me I just try and find what images, what music, what type of characters really just speak out to me personally, and which ones are most personal to me. And I think that is kind of what happened with Slush. I chose, obviously I haven't experienced anything truly like what happened to Slush, but the heartbreak, romantic type stuff, if everyone has gone through that at some point, and those are the type of stories that I find personal to me, as well as, these really weird, kind of overdramatic characters, I find those really funny. As long as, the very hip-hop-ish soundtrack, that's something that personally to me, I find is kind of a big part of my style. So I can't really say how you should find your style, but I think those are some good ways, and I think that you should try through your movies to find what exactly your style is, because that is what will set you apart from everyone else. We always talk about, oh, you should plan everything, make sure you know what the lighting is, what shots you need to get, blah blah blah. But with this one I learned sometimes you're just gonna find that there's things you can't really plan for. What works on the scripts sometimes doesn't quite work on actual video, and you can't ever tell what these parts are gonna be. And sometimes you'll just be editing the movie and you realize, maybe I need a little shot here, or I need to maybe cut this line or add this line, and those are things you can't really plan for. So while I think there are some things you can plan for when you're shooting a movie, I think it's important to realize that there are some things that you simply just can't plan for, and reshoots are pretty much just going to be normal, because like I said, when you're editing, there's just those little things that you're not going to be able to find, and you can't predict them. And so you just need to, hope for the best, and hopefully if you do find those mistakes when you're editing, it is something that you can change, and you don't have to, completely rework the story or anything. Lastly, sometimes you're just going to be lazy. I always try and in each 5 things have some type of tip of, how to stop procrastinating, or, how to just get jump started on a video. But I think it's important to realize, that I especially realized on this, that, sometimes you're just going to be lazy, especially in the summertime, where you just want to hang out with your friends and stuff. There's going to be a point where you just wake up and you're like, I don't really feel like working at it today. And I think that's completely normal. I mean, yes, movies is what I love to do, and there's nothing else I'd really rather want to do, but, too much good stuff is eventually bad stuff. And so if you're just constantly working and working and working on something, you're going to get a little bored with it sometimes. And so I think it's healthy to sometimes just, take a lazy day, just relax, let your brain refresh from, all the craziness that you've been doing with the movie, and that will eventually, allow you to just keep putting out good stuff instead of, just editing trash because you're just not in the mood. So those are the 5 things that I learned. Hopefully you learned something from those, and if you have not seen Slush, please check it out. And like I said, subscribe to Space, well, not subscribe, but vote for Space Cocaine. And yeah, we got some stuff coming up on this channel as summer comes to an end. So I hope you look forward to what we're doing next, and adios.